And Naima Jahun from Nigeria, salam. Nur Khalis Tulung Gagong from Indonesia. Yeah.
Nobody from Malaysia.
All of us from Malaysia. Dr. Salmijah from Indonesia, College Darul Hikmah. Farid Faiz from Indonesia.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. It's my pleasure.
We have 125 participants currently.
This number will increase. I think after Isha, there will be many who will join. That's why we moved it to 9:15. So
I see. After Isha. Good idea.
After Isha. Yeah.
We have Martinelli from
Malaysia.
Malaysia, I can see.
That's another country, Gombak.
Gombak, yeah. Fatima Kawi from Jordan. Dr. Fatima Kawi.
Dr. Fathi used to be with us many years ago, Tan Sri, when we were in PJ, and then when we first moved, he was with us. He was part of our faculty.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So most of these are alumni, or people associated with IIUM.
And IIIT.
Quite a number would be associated, maybe formerly students or staff. But again, you have quite a big number who are part of the IIIT network.
We have Lignur Kucuk, Germany, IIUM alumni from Germany.
Prof, I think we can start. Aslam.
Yeah, it's 12. 3 minutes. Yeah. Maybe we give it until 9:15 so that we give the full.
155 participants.
How was it the previous, Fauzan? How was it the previous sessions?
Yeah, very good. Alhamdulillah.
The 19th session or something like that.
Yeah, Dr. Dato Bakar. Alhamdulillah.
It's got a weekly thing.
Yeah, it's weekly thing, but now we're going to do every fortnight.
Every fortnight. I think it's a very good attempt.
Yeah,
to connect, people again.
If not for COVID-19, Tan Sri, I don't think we would have, had the opportunity to do this. So it has allowed us to,
Yeah. The only thing, my suspicion is when 125, 138, we don't know whether they are there, whether they are not.
We're checking now. 142 participants now.
Yeah. They just
they are for sure.
They must just log in and then go for coffee,
We have Dr. Said Musa also here. We have Dr. Zul Jastri.
Oh,
who's that guy?
Everyone sounds familiar.
We have Balayat Hussein, our students.
I saw Sonny there also.
Sonny Zulhuda, yes. Pak Habib from Yogyakarta.
Okay. So I will probably be the youngest in terms of acquaintance to IIUM.
Yeah, but some in the IIIT network, they are probably not directly connected to the university, but they have been joining our programs over the week.
Is it the first time this kind of a program? Last year you don't have this, I guess. No COVID, no.
Yeah,
This
is just the last 3 months.
After COVID,
the last 3 months. It has been a 3 months. We started in April, I think, right? Early April was our first.
And according to Pak Habib, he invited a few of rectors and deputy rector from Indonesia. Is it true, Pak Habib? Yeah.
So COVID is a blessing after all, huh?
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can...
sure.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good evening, salam sejahtera. Welcome everyone to this 19th IIIT Intellectual Discourse series. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to be moderating this session. in which we have the 6th Rector of the International Islamic University with us, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dzulkifly Abdul Razak. The role of a moderator, is basically to introduce the speaker, to give some connection to the topic, but to do this in a short a time as possible. So I really want to try and do this, and that is why I hope nearly all of you would have received a very short biodata of our speaker this evening. We sent this earlier to everybody, and if you had a chance to go through it, you would realize that Tan Sri Zul, as we call him, has been involved with academia for, I think, close to 45 years, and if you include his student days, probably maybe almost 50 years now. Yeah. He's been with academia. He has been with 3 public universities, 1 private university in Malaysia. For the last 20 years, he has been heading University Science Malaysia. At one time, the first university to get apex status in Malaysia. And then he went to the Islamic Science University, USIM, as the chairman of the board. And then in 2018, August, he came to IIUM, and we have had tremendous change. So in trying to introduce Tan Sri, I would just like to say that the last 2 years has been a very dynamic 2 years in IIUM. Trying to give a description of Tan Sri, besides what you could read in the CV, when you look at the fact that he has been involved in not only universities, but very active in NGOs, very active in civil society, and if you look at the list of these NGOs and civil society organizations, you will see that right in his heart is somebody who wants to translate knowledge into action. And I may add another point, not only ilm and amal, but effective amal. I think this is something which I have maybe realized in his activities. He wants to deliver knowledge, to manifest it in action, but it has to be effective action. And what we have seen in IIUM for the last 2 years is that this action, in order to be effective, needs to make the university the catalyst of community development. And I think Tan Sri is very passionate about this. And in this light, just last week, IIUM has had the honor of being awarded the Green Gown International Award for 2020 Sustainability Institution of the Year. And I think this is a big honor for the university, and especially for Tan Sri in the last 2 years. Ever since he came in, he has been talking about taking IIUM not only out of Malaysia, but globally, and to make the presence of IIUM felt globally. And I think with this award, to a certain extent, we have taken that first step. So really congrats to Tan Sri and his team. The discussion today is going to focus on shaping the future of education. So again, I think this is a topic that our speaker today has had a long experience from the time he was in USM, going to USIM, and then finally now in the International Islamic University. So with that very brief and, I hope I've done justice, Tan Sri, in 5 minutes introducing you. We give the floor to you about half an hour to 35 minutes, and then we will open for some Q&A. So I invite Tan Sri to make his presentation, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Aslam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Indeed, I'm very humbled to be speaking to all of you from all over the world. As I said, I've been in IIUM for slightly less than 2 years. I think 1 week's time I'll be here for 2 years. And this is an experience that I would describe as something which is also unusual. All life that I've been for education is in the quote-unquote the non-Islamic environment. I was in USIM for about two years, learning the traits of what Islamic education is all about. And suddenly I have been quote-unquote pushed into this awesome IIUM and really finding my way through and trying to make the university that everybody else can be proud of. You know, so I discovered this university as the Malaysian world best kept secret. There's so many things happening in this university, but very few people know about it. So my task is actually very simple, to dig up what has been there and then portray to the world we have been here long before, and this is what we are all about and how we can actually immerse ourselves with the intellectual environment globally, not just within Malaysia or not just within the Islamic world. Yeah. So what I will do today is try to ambitiously describe shaping the future of education, but taking the 2 years of experience that I have within the IIUM. I will try to do this in half an hour, but certainly I think to talk about the future in half an hour is not also very practical, but let's try somehow or other nevertheless. So I would like to begin by sharing with you the slide that I've prepared. As a moderator has said, you can intervene and interfere whenever you want, but otherwise we will go ahead and have the discussion. All right. I hope you can see my slides now. I'm a right-brained person, so most of my presentation are graphic rather than text form. So I hope you can bear with me with this thing. So this is a rather busy slide. Busy because if you look below, these are the description that the university has had for the last couple of months or so. Just to show you on the extreme left on my side will be, it's called the Regional Center of Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development. This was awarded to us by the United Nations University last April, looking at the activities that this university have done not only the last 2 years, but the last 35 years. How we have managed to package it and show them that this university actually has got a mission on sustainable development, and that sustainable development is a kind of a core mission as far as the university is concerned. I will try and demonstrate to you. Then just a couple of weeks ago, as Prof. Aslam has mentioned, we were awarded this Green Ground Award International, hosted by United Nations Environment with 3 other major associations. One is the Association of Commonwealth University. The other one is the International Association University based in Paris, which is part of UNESCO. And the other one is also the Francophone University, which I think will cumulatively take more about 2,000 university in terms of its institutional membership. And we are fortunate enough to be awarded the Sustainable Institution of the Year for the year 2020. We beat 8 others finalists, including a couple from UK and from Australia. And in a way of saying, I think we're probably the best university for the year 2020 when it comes to sustainable development. So I will try and characterize this as we go along. Let me start by reminding you where we are. I think most of you are very familiar with this building, the Garden of Knowledge and Virtue, right? We have celebrated our 37 years anniversary last May 20th. There's a sprawling what we call map of the campus. Yeah? But of late, we have introduced another tagline called Leading the Way, coming out from our song, Let's Lead the Way. So this is now the tagline of the university, and the 4 very distinct essence of that song is about Khalifah, it's about Amanah, it's about the culture of Iqra, and last but not least, it's about Rahmatan lil Amin. I mean, this is the thing that really strikes me when I first listened to the song as I took over the position as a rector, that no university that I've been through talk about Rahmatan lil Alamin. Many of the universities that we've been through, and I'm sure you agree with me, just talk about, their own nation state, or perhaps their own region, or perhaps just the global sort of existence, but no rahmatan lil alamin, no humanity per se. So the task that I've got when I read this rahmatan lil alamin is certainly beyond what we have been thinking of as far as university in Malaysia. Although we are called IIUM, M is Malaysia, but Malaysia is beyond just the boundaries that we know of. So that's the mindset that I took as far as IIUM is concerned, trying to project it as a university that is concerned of the humanity per se, not just the Muslim world as such, but everything else that is under the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a tremendous task, and trying to understand this alone is not easy for someone who is outside of this university, but nevertheless we did try. There is the 7 mission of this university. Some of us know this in the acronym of IICE, IIICE, yeah. But hidden behind the IIICE is this 7 mission. I'm not too sure whether you still remember this 7 mission, but this 7 mission, it now becomes our key sort of focus of how many of these 7 missions actually has been met as far as trying to reconceptualize what IIM is about in the context of Rahmatan lil Alamin. Yeah, I'll go through this a little bit just to remind you if you've forgotten, but I'm sure this is something that all of you have gone through if you go through IIUM. Now, these are the 7 missions when it talks about actualizing the university's vision. It endeavors to meet these 7 missions, right? And the first one, I think, is very unique to this university, to undertake special and greatly needed tasks of reforming contemporary Muslim mentality and integrating Islamic revealed knowledge and human sciences in a positive way. Again, from my experience, there's no university that I've been to that talks about very directly in trying to integrate these 2 elements of revealed knowledge and of human science or acquired knowledge in a positive way. So that alone, I think, has put IIUM in a class of its own. But trying to convince the world that we are doing this is another ball game altogether. So in my way of understanding this is how do you put the IRK and the HS together, not just as a kuliah, but as a kind of a living sort of understanding of what knowledge is all about, and trying to make it holistic and also trying to make it into a way of life. So it is not kuliah-centric, as it were. It is entirely based on what this university stands for. So I humbly try to understand this. One is about the thinking process, the reasoning process, working on the minds, yeah. But what we have added as far as the university is concerned is where the heart is. As people talk nowadays about mindfulness, I'm more inclined to talk about heartfulness and how these 2 will eventually integrate. Yeah? And the integration of these 2 will bring us into another sort of episode that is understanding the higher purpose of life and the higher purpose of values, which is not basically articulated, but at the end of the day, it is about how do we gain barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by trying to balance these 2 elements, these 2 seats of intellect, the heart and the mind. All right. So that, from my point of view, is the final outcome of a successful graduate from IIUM. Beyond the purpose of, just economics or employment or employability or being famous, we want this barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's, to me, is a definition of success as far as IIUM is concerned. Again, it is something which is very different from the other universities that I've been through. This is inspired by the worldview of Tawhid and the Islamic philosophy of unity of Tawhid and of knowledge, as well as its concept on a holistic education. So the inspiration is very clear of where it comes from. It's a very Tawhidic sort of understanding of where knowledge and philosophy and and the whole concept of education that needs to be embedded within the university. So that little understanding is the one that perhaps push us forward, trying to translate this, trying to give meaning to students, to staff, and indeed to the community, as Professor Aslam has mentioned. I often remind ourselves we're an international university. There's nothing wrong with it. But what about the community around us? As we move into the world, being an international university? Do the community around us move at the same time, or are they being left behind, and therefore the gap between the university and the community gets wider over the period of time? That, I think, is one of the major challenges, how to bring the community around us together with university. Yeah, I think there is enough evidence, there's enough work to talk about how the head, the mind, and the heart works together quite integratively. They have got their own specific understanding of what this is all about and how it functions, and finally articulating it into action, as Aslam has said. It's no good if it remains in the heart and the head, and there's nothing translated beyond that, and how then you actually can create this balance that we talked about. So I think this, to me, is a major challenge of how to understand this, so that we internalized it, and then it becomes part and parcel of the graduate of this university, which is again distinctively different from other graduates around the world, be it a world-class university in the West or whatever else that you can think of. Yeah. So to bring this uniqueness is a challenge, I think, that we are trying to articulate in the last 2 years. There's been a lot of discussion between my colleagues and certainly the whole community, and trying to bring this forward. And I think the practical dimension is this. So when we look at the mission of the university, when it talks about we want to be an international center of education, of excellence, yeah, and it talks about 3 things. One is to revitalize again the intellectual dynamism. In my sense, is basically this: how do we move forward, keep on redefining, reinterpreting, and realizing what is new in the context of the world today, given the Islamic dimension. And if we have said this, how do we integrate knowledge, yeah, and values in all, I underline the word all, academic disciplines and educational activity. And finally, to restore. I'm not too happy with the word restore. I want to use the word enhance, if I could. Yeah, how do you enhance a leading progressive role of Muslim Ummah in all branches of knowledge, and culminating into this something again which is very unique to IIUM, contributing to the improvement or upgrading of the quality of human life and civilization. I think the challenge, if we can go to any of the university where you are now, including the West, the best of it, I think there is the word civilization is never in their mission statement. The word human life is also not there. Again, we have taken a very, very ambitious kind of mission statement to make sure that the dignity of human being, the humanitarian values in the context of civilization around the world will be the forte of this university. So at the end of the day, we are trying to use this cliche or the tagline, leading the way. How do you lead the way and bringing this aspiration of the 7 mission and also the mission of the vision of the university forward in trying to translate it into a very civilizational sort of mission across the world, right? So I'll go back to this, and just to demonstrate what we have done at the end the last 2 years. Yeah, that is the mission, and we have talked about mission number 1. Then we go to mission number 2. If I just obliterate the rest so that we can focus on mission number 2. As we talked about how do you want to transform the university, we use sustainable development as the keyword. The world now talks about sustainable development since the year 1992. And this mission statement of ours, I think, was crafted in 1995, just 3 years after the Earth Summit that was launched by United Nations. Already we have encompassed this whole idea of sustainable development well before many of the universities in Malaysia even able to articulate this. So 15 years ago we are there, and I am privileged to see a statement made by the third rector, Professor Kamal Hassan, that talks about sustainable development to be realized in his statement in the year 2020. And this is exactly what is happening now. We have realized it in Malaysia in the year 2019 when we have the first summit. Yeah? And then we are hoping that this will be also part and parcel of the Islamic world per se when we talk about sustainable development. Sad to say, when we talk about sustainability, the Muslim world do not give a good picture. Although we are among the richest, sometimes the most successful, but when it comes to sustainable development, we are not there. So I felt this is our duty to tell the world that yes, we are also sustainable, and we cannot find a world, you cannot find a community, at least you can find a university that works and also deliver sustainability and sustainable development. And this SDG pyramid, as we put it, I think also embraces some of the values that we talked about. It is not merely an external or material thing. They talk about spirituality when they talk about peace, and they talk about partnership, they talk about ecology, and they talk about people at the same time. All these are ingrained into the kind of quality education that we should be delivering. All right? And therefore, this is where we begin to look at what we call now the academic review. We are reviewing holistically what is it as far as IIUM is concerned, given the Islamic perspective, how do you deliver sustainable development? Indeed, reinterpret also some of the ideas of sustainable development within the context of the Islamic worldview. Then if you look again, it says here, we must be this agent of change, of a comprehensive and balanced progress. So we're coming back to the whole idea, how do you keep this balance all the time through education and through knowledge that we have got within this university, particularly for our students who will be graduating on that. And as I go through again, when I look at mission number 6, it talks about intercultural understanding, all right? A university have got 7,000 students now, more than 100 countries around the world. Where is this intercultural understanding happening in the university? Or are we still siloed among ourselves, given the number of students not integrating or interacting with one another? Although integration is one of the bigger words in this university. Are we fostering civilizational dialogue, particularly now when there are so many, issues to be contented with? Are we speaking to one another, giving a greater understanding of what the Muslim Ummah is all about? And finally, working in a cross-community, including the non-Muslims and whatever have you around the world today. I think this is the bigger challenge that this university needs to uphold, so that we become the center of reference in many of the things that we are now confronting as far as the development forward in the year 2020 and beyond. And the last one, again, talks about a deep sense of social responsibility among staff and students. And this is where when Professor Aslam talked, my sort of obsession is to work with the community. That is part of the social responsibility that I think we need to deliver. It is no good, I think this university is successful, but we do not play social responsibility or the accountability that we are supposed to display as quote-unquote the educated ones from this university. So if I look at this and I try to understand what sustainable development is about in its very core understanding, not just a superficial thing, education in this university then must be connected to many of these goals, the 17 goals. In other words, the education that we provide in this university must be able, for example, to solve poverty, which is the SDG number 1. Not enhancing poverty. And education today tends to do that, because the kind of disparity between the rich and the poor, the have and the have-nots, we tend to get education being a source of inequality rather than trying to be the leveler of society. The education that we give now, does it provide eliminate hunger, which is goal number 2, particularly in the era of the COVID, when food is scarce. How do education play a role in trying to make sure that everybody has got enough on their table so that they can also live a dignified life? And of course, number 3 is about cleanliness and also well-being. All right. I think everybody knows that unless you keep yourself clean with whatever sanitizer or soap or water and stuff like that, you will never be able to fight the COVID-19. But still, the issue is, are we having access to water, a sanitizer or soap, And at the end of the day, I think this is a key question that we are trying to tackle with the university, the whole idea of well-being, the whole idea of mental health. This will be the next consequence of COVID-19, whether we like it or not. So in other words, how do we connect education within this university to all these goals that also talks about humanitarian values and humanity at the same time. I think it's a big role that we are able to undertake, and hopefully within the academic review that we're going to do shortly. So what I'm trying to say at the end of the day, if you want to survive the future, there must be a space that we create for ourselves, that we can also convey some of these ideas that we have within our mission and the vision of the university. We need a global space. We need to be recognized. We need to be interacting with other people. We also need to foster the dialogue that we are talking about. And this is what we are attempting to do for the last 2 years, to create that space so that we will be there, we will be visible, and we will be recognized as a respected member of the educational community per se. Yeah? And it's not just another space, it is a space where we are talking about how to preserve the human life. So we are bringing back this whole idea of Maqasid Asharia as part and parcel of the underlying theme of education. Yeah? How do the Maqasid becomes an important assessment tool as far as this university is concerned? Do we protect life? Do we protect intellect? Do we protect the future generation? All of this I think you're familiar with, given again the imminent threat of COVID around us. How do you make this happen within that stage that we're going to create? Yeah? And this is where I think the idea of sustainable development comes in. You want to talk not just about the people, but also its surrounding, the planet, and also the survival, which is prosperity, that equate in the context of a balance to have the sustainable development, which finally talks about a world that is equitable, a world that is viable, a world that is bearable. And to balance this and to juggle this is the issue that we are now trying to focus on, but certainly within the ambit and the inspiration that Islam has given us. We are not taking this blindly as being defined by certain people in certain situations. We are going back to what Islam tells us in the context of what the future is and how do we interact and maintain the balance, the mizan as well. So creating the space, I think, has been our preoccupation in the last 1 year to get ourselves recognized and also to be an active player as far as the global stage is concerned. So on that note, we wrote a kind of not a blueprint, a kind of an aspiration. We call it Leading the Way, realizing the distinctive international Islamic university. And that later on is converted into a roadmap. And this roadmap has been our guidelines, I think, for the last 2 years. And I just want to attract your attention on it is what we call the whole institution transformation. From the little that I know, we need to move holistically and make the change holistically rather than a piecemeal. So in other words, everybody must get involved. Everybody must have got a role in this. Everybody must understand where we are heading. And that was the main challenge for the last 2 years, to get everybody on board, to get everybody to understand what are we trying to do and why are we doing certain things in a certain way, because of the mission, vision, and also the space for the future as far as IIUM is concerned, right? In a nutshell, what we are talking about changing the structures of the university. If the university is siloed, the kuliah work among themselves, or people within the kuliah is working among themselves, we say that's no longer acceptable. We need to work together. We talk about an ummah. We need to work together as a team, as a community that is concerned over a certain issue. So breaking down the silos has been a major concern. We are successful to a certain extent, but I think there's a lot more to be done. There's the mahalah to talk about, and there are other 3 campuses beyond Gombak also to be integrated over the next 2 years, inshallah. Yeah. For this, we are saying that everybody now must take the role of a leader. I think this is not new to us. The Prophet, I think, talks about that all of us are leaders and we need to be accountable for it. And we are using the acronym there, the Khalifa, Amanah, Ikraq, and Rahmatan lil Amin. So happen that it forms a nice name of Khair. And how do we now need to function as an individual that has responsibility and accountability over the knowledge that we have got and to translate it. Yeah. So not only talking about how to work this out. I think now we are talking about the virtual way of interacting. This needs to be enhanced within the university. All the IT facilities and so on, so forth needs to be now activated so that we can reach out to other people more than we do. We have got some people talk WFH, work from home. Ours is WFA, which is work from anywhere, work from at any time, or also at anyone, right? But as we discuss this, one bright spark say WFA is actually work for Allah. I like that. It's not about anywhere, anytime, anyone, but it's for Allah, anytime, anywhere, and anyone. So that's the kind of spirit that we want to. So the moment you work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't need supervision, I hope. Yeah, no matter where you are. So we are not concerned whether you're in your office or whether in the shopping mall. We know you're working. Hopefully that is a kind of aspiration, yeah, that IIUM will bring as far as the new post-COVID environment is concerned. Of course, cleanliness is one. I've talked about it, and this academic review that we talked about, we are looking again where everything is fit, whether the jigsaw actually fits with one another. We are opening more spaces that people now are encouraged to be public intellectuals, to write their thoughts, to write their contribution in newspapers. Yeah, and I see increasingly people are doing that and do it in a very open access manner so that people can share and also create this discourse among themselves. For that, we are now revising the whole idea of what Ta'aruf is all about. We're going to have ours in probably a week's time in this, in Gambang, where the foundation studies there, to restructure again the thinking of what our students ought to be when it comes to the academic review, and also reworking again the Center for Professional Development so that people understand where the university is now moving beyond 2020 and into the future. Yeah, as again Prof Aslam says, where is the community in all this, right? And the community now, we have worked on what we call the flagship program. Every kuliah now have got a flagship program that demonstrate their strength, their interest, and also their effort in trying to work with the community. So we've got about 29 flagship programs now that could be used as a platform for people to work together across the silos, including the community at the same time. I have no time to demonstrate it, but there will be it's on our website if you look at the flagship program per se. We are very concerned. I think for the last 3 months we learned that mental health and mental agility is very important, and our students do not have the resiliency to maintain that. So as we get locked down over 2 weeks, 2 months, and later on we find that the number of students getting into depression, anxiety, stress also increase accordingly. And when we look at our data, we do not have much about this to say, and we're developing now a platform of mental health and mental hygiene so that we can also be, the fighting forces ahead, because our mental health and mental understanding is strong at the same time, right? So in a nutshell, we talk about education 2030, and this is what sustainable development is all about. By 10 years from now, a decade from now, where can you end to make education more equitable, more just, more well-distributed, yeah? And there is no disparity between the have and the have-nots the way we see it today. We summarize that in a very succinct way using the word COVID again, so that you will remember this well. COVID means you need to work collaboratively. Education is collaboratively, cooperatively done. It is open access, open resource. Yeah, it is not dependent on how much money you get, because that's part of the rights that you have. It has to be value-based, coming from the Islamic value. It has to be inclusive. The word istiqamah come in, and finally it has to be diverse and also disciplined in that particular sense. So these are some of the things that we are now putting on board, giving it meaning, and as we progress, inshallah, this will be part and parcel of the new normal, quote unquote, as it were, for IIUM moving forward, right? Now, how do we do this? We need to look back at one of God's creation, which is the moon. And here is a picture of one-day crescent in year 2008. And we are using this as a kind of inspiration when we do our strategic plan. When we do our strategic plan, we have the crescent on the outside. The blue crescent is basically what we need to work on before you can get into the full moon, right? And this is what we call the institutional readiness. And most of this thing has been there, but is it properly understood? When we talk about integration, Islamization, internationalization, and comprehensive excellence, do you actually talk about the 7 missions, or are you talking about something else? That has been my what you call struggle. When I talk to people about IIIT, different people say different things. And nobody actually referred to the 7 missions until very late when we found the statement by Professor Kamal. And I've demonstrated to you, when you talk about sustainable development, this is not a secularist agenda taking in and trying to displace the IIIT or the 7 missions. Indeed, mission number 2, or at least mission number 6, is answerable to sustainable development the way we defined it. Yeah? And that's where the Education 2030 is embedded. In other words, we've got precisely one decade to translate it into meaningfulness as far as that's concerned. So campus then needs to be sustainability-led. In other words, when we talk about the garden of knowledge and virtue, how much sustainability is built into this? Or what does it mean when you talk about sustainable development in the context of the garden of knowledge and virtue? Again, yeah, there is a number of discussion that's been doing on that. And the last one is, of course, the Maqasid Asyariah, as I mentioned to you, which is part and parcel for the Malaysian, the national education philosophy. So how do we integrate it, and how do you make this, again, the foundation for education within Malaysia and beyond? And last but not least is the leading the way. So everybody in the campus now, beginning September, hopefully, will be exposed to this. Under the Center for Professional Development, will have to understand so that we have one idea and one interpretation of what IIUM is all about, the IIIT, whatever have you, as far as this university is concerned. There's no more, uncertainty or maybe, some doubt whether this will work or otherwise. We will ensure that we understand this in the proper context, given the history and also the documents that we've got within ourselves. Yeah? Only when this happens, we think then the strategic plan will work. In other words, the pink second layer, that will be the processes that all kuliahs will need to go through. And now we are going on a roadshow, visiting from kuliah to kuliah, trying to understand where they are in terms of what they want to do, given these processes. How do they carry out this process, and how do the process within kuliah gel with one another? Yeah, that will be the key way forward to go into success. At the end of the day, we want to create this balanced graduate, balanced staff, institutional stability and autonomy at the same time, while harmoniously living with the community around them, and coming back to the humanizing education or holistic education the way it is, so that we are making it real as far as the globe is concerned. That this university exists for a reason that will contribute to the well-being of everyone else in the world today. So give me another 2 minutes, I probably will finish. So borrowing this cliche, we also want to flatten the curve. In other words, there is no overt disparities, there is no overt injustice. Yeah, I think this again is a very opportune time when we talk about Black Lives Matters. Yeah, it could have been Muslim Life Matters, but we have not taken that. But certainly this is a thing that we want to talk about. How do you actually come to terms that education now becomes a leveler of society? It's not a privilege anymore, it is a right. Anybody around the world must have got those rights, particularly in countries where they are totally deprived, the war-torn countries. Yeah? Countries have been ravaged by so many disasters and so on and so forth. How do you bring education to them? And this is, I think, the crux of Rahmatan lil Alamin, the way I understand. So flattening the curve is a cliche we use, but in the context of education, bring it to the future, not only for Muslim worlds, but also for the entire world now. As you see it, even the great United States of America are facing the same problem. So, Alhamdulillah, while working through this, somebody sort of took notice of us. One is the United Nations University. As we interacted with them, they then give you, as I mentioned, the regional centers of expertise on education for sustainable development, meaning to say now we are a referral center when it comes to sustainable development, with an advantage that we also have got the Islamic perspective. Mind you, this is the first Islamic university that has been given the status. So we are really very privileged to articulate the worldview, the Islamic worldview, within the context of sustainable development that has been going on, I think, for the last 20 years or so, right? So just to give you a kind of an idea, there are less than 200 of these centers around the world. Yeah, as you can see, the Middle East, there is no dots at all. Okay, in other words, there is no country that is Islamically inclined that is recognized by United Nations in the context of sustainable development. So I think this is a major achievement. We need now to spread this news to other brothers and sisters around the world so that they can also learn about sustainable development in the context that we were trying to understand it. It is established in 2004 when the question was asked, can we create sustainable development without education or with the conventional structures of the university? And the answer is no. Right, and therefore they created this idea of regional centers of expertise so that we can mainstream this idea of sustainable development within the ambit of education today. And you can see the numbers. We started with 7 in 2005. Now I think in 2019, if I'm mistaken, is about 178 centers around the world, mainly in Europe, in Far East, yeah, and some in Africa. But the Muslim world is still not there in large numbers, right? What does this mean? This means the whole paradigm of education will have to change. We are not just talking about vertical and horizontal kind of education. In other words, university works within the university or work with schools. Yeah, they have got another dimension, which is the diagonal dimension that talks about working with the community and other places where schools do not exist, to create an own environment where education can be the privilege of everybody. I think this is a big challenge. For Malaysia, may not be so, but many different countries, that particularly war-torn countries, is something that I think we are focusing on. One of the ideas now is to build an international school for migrants in IIUM. I think we are about to negotiate this with a funder, and hopefully by next year we will be able to launch that school, inshallah. Okay, so that's generally what it is, yeah. And then come July 8th, we were then selected as the winner for the 2020 Sustainable Institution of the Year. This is given by, like I say, United Nations Environment, supported by many other institutions of prestige around the world. Just to remind you, this is not a ranking game. Right? We are so obsessed, at least in Malaysia, about ranking. Ranking is commercially driven. You have to pay a lot of money sometimes to stay where you are. Yeah, we have to do works that sometimes do not mean anything to the community, publishing, and some people do not even read what is published. Yeah, in this particular context, then we don't spend a single cent in trying to get recognized. They come and say, what have you done? And we have shown them the impact, and they've evaluated. I was told that 30 judges, 90 judges from all over the world, looking at who deserves to be the winner. Yeah, and Alhamdulillah, I think we are the winner. To give you how prestigious this is, last year the winner is McGill University in Canada. All right. McGill University, I think, is one of the prominent universities, at least in the developed world. So we are now sparring, hopefully, with the likes of McGill University. Yet we need to show our mentor that we are basically deserving, and it is not something that happens by chance. Yeah. So that's the kind of work that we are trying to do at the moment in time. Now, you may want to ask me, why is the obsession on sustainable development? As I've mentioned, one of the reasons is our mission statement number 2 talks about sustainable development. All right, it's been there for the last 15 years, and because it needs to be realized in the year 2020, Alhamdulillah, we've got it. But on the major front, when we talk about the COVID, I have no time to talk about it. When you talk about the COVID-19, so happen this lecture is number 19. I don't know whether it's a coincidence. So it talks about this, where the Secretary General makes a statement in one of the document on COVID and how you survived it. It says our roadmap is the 2030 agenda and the 17 Sustainable Development Goal. The recovery from COVID-19 crisis must lead to a different economy, right? And we are looking at people like Prof. Aslam will hopefully give us what is a different economy looks like within the ambit of IIUM. Everything we do during and after this crisis must be a strong focus on building equitable, inclusive, sustainable economies and societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemic, climate change, and many of the global challenges that we talked about. So in other words, it is not enough to be just an international university. We need to be a global university at the same time. I make a difference between global and international. Global means we have concern for everything else, including the climate, including, whatever else that pertains to our survival. Whereas when you talk about international, it could be an exchange between two countries, between two communities, and the rest do not matter. So I think we need to change this perspective, because if you look at this diagram beside that, unless and until we manage some of this sustainable development goal, we are not able to manage COVID-19 at the same time, right? So I think that is where the punchline is. We need to maintain some of these issues of sustainability, be it partnership, and so on and so forth. I'd like to end by critically mention that when we look at this and analyze it from the Islamic perspective, using the maqasid, we see spirituality is not well endowed in this. So we are now working on what we call SDG 18. Although it's got only 17, we're going to create another one, SDG 18, which is called spirituality. Alhamdulillah, maybe next month, a book will come out written by this university entitled Spirituality and Sustainable Development. I hope that the book will be our opus magnum, will be the one that, shine the new light as far as where sustainable development needs to go, given the Islamic perspective and the Islamic dimension. Irfan, can you help me? I want to close this by just sharing with you the moment in New York. We're supposed to be in New York, but because of COVID, we are not being able to there. But I want to show you just a video when they announced the IIUM named the only Islamic university around the world that has been given that recognition. So please enjoy it. I hope the video works. Everyone. So Aslam, why I need to be here back home?
Congratulations.
Okay, go ahead. Yes. This is in Columbia University in New York when they announced this, together with the United Nations sort of a forum that I mentioned to you. All right.
Everyone. Now, our final category is Sustainability Institution of the Year, and we have 9 finalists.
Yeah, is it?
Charles Sturt,
yes,
University
it's okay.
of Australia.
Okay.
De La Salle Lipa, Philippines. International Islamic University,
Yeah.
Malaysia. Start AD,
These are the finalists.
New York University, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Universidad San Ignacio de Loyola, Peru. Universidad Ecmilenio, Mexico. Universidad Veracruzana, Mexico. Universidad de Oviedo, Spain. University of Worcester, United Kingdom. To present the Sustainability Institution of the Year Award, please welcome Hillage Bandland from International Association of Universities.
The winner of the Sustainability Institution of the Year International Green Gown Awards for a small institution goes to International Islamic University Malaysia.
Yeah. So we didn't sleep that night thinking about what this means. There'll be a video for that. There's a video for it.
You will now watch their video.
It's just a 2-minute video.
In the last 2 years, we have been trying to manage to change the university into a university that is truly international and sustainable. In this way, we are able to move as much as possible nature of education for the future by changing not only the structure of the university, but also the knowledge base as far as the university is concerned. In other words, IIUM is moving into a whole institutional transformation, taking with it the national education philosophy, sustainable development goals, United Nations 4 pillars of learning, and other very important foundation as far as the university is concerned.
Among the things we do to transform IIUM as a sustainability institution was to rename some of the offices and centers to suit their functions to promote sustainability agendas such as responsible research, student development, community engagement, and knowledge for change. We also introduced holacratic leadership and management, where everyone in the campus is empowered and entrusted to carry out their sustainability initiatives.
Within a year, the impact of 29 flagship projects created could clearly be seen in 5 areas. First, the breaking down of academic administrative silos in a transformational way. 2, the building of voluntary teams and teamwork across the academic structure based on shared aspirations. 3, allowing for greater creativity and social innovation in translating SDGs into local context. 4, enhancing community engagement in co-problem solving based on SDG. And lastly, capturing data and information to be transformed into knowledge and wisdom.
The formal classroom education is now linked to our co-curricular activities, which give more meanings to our community engagement projects through learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, learning to live together, and learning to become.
I hope you have been able to see the G's of transformation that we are trying to do for the last 24 months using the whole institutional transformation and also carving a new idea of what a human university is all about as a kind of novelty for the future.
So thank you very much, brothers and sisters. That's my presentation. If there's anything that you want to take forward, I'll be trying to answer you. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Tan Sri, for the very illuminating presentation. I think hearing you is always very inspiring. It's amazing that we've actually gone 40 minutes without realizing it. We have close to about 250 participants with us, and the last count, it's about 20 countries represented. We received a lot of congratulations to the university for the recent award. One of the questions, maybe we will start with this question from Afrad from Indonesia, is about the ranking issue. The first question was about your point about breaking silos, and he also mentioned that one of the challenges even between universities, it's all about competition, and ranking plays a big part of it, because if you're not ranked, or if you're ranked not favorably, you lose funding, you lose students coming. So how do you see this, and how are we supposed to to get around this?
Yeah, I've written an article which I say ranking is a Western construct. This was when I was an academic. There was no ranking. In other words, you judge your work on impact rather than being ranked. Why ranking comes into the picture? The reason is very simple. The moment the demographic shift in the West has taken place. There's nobody else who want to go to their university. All right. And where do they get this population from? Is from us. And how do they convince us that they are good by having this rank? And if you look at the ranking, they seldom change. The kind of rank, the green gown thing, you see developing countries in the list. Yeah. But in the ranking, you seldom see any developing countries in the list. And we are struggling to be in the list. And I know some people pay money for this. So in other words, the whole ethics of ranking is not within the ambit of IIUM. I'm against this because it is not ethical to start off with. The moment we go into ranking, then we will open up a big question: what is this university all about in terms of values, right? And I just sent one of the news to a friend of mine who works with the World Bank. I think some of you knows him, Jamil Salmi. He used to be the advisor of the World Bank. I say, Jamil, this is a good news for us. And the response that I got from him: congratulations, Zul. This is more meaningful than the QS and the Times ranking. Keep it up. So I think we need to be very forceful about this and not being bought just because we have a quote unquote of an inferiority complex and then wants to do into ranking, and somebody will then finally put it into us, at least in IUM, that this is not ethical at all. So our stand is very clear that we are not into ranking. In fact, we are now trying to devise an Islamic way of how to value universities on 5 criteria. Maybe we can talk about that the next time. But I am sure as long as I'm here, ranking is not part of IUM.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri. I mean, this voice is actually, it is gaining momentum.
Yes.
More and more people are actually getting quite disillusioned with the ranking game. But nevertheless, I think governments are still very much stressing this. And although on the one hand, we may have, ministries of education saying that they're not only looking at ranking, but behind that, it's still a major issue. But certainly the idea of changing how you look at performance of universities is a very important, part of shaping the future of education. I'm just wondering at this point in time, we don't have anything on the chat. So I'm just wondering if Prof. Fauzan or Mr. Shahran, if you would like to invite somebody to
one Omar, I think.
But Shahran, do you have control over who you would like to unmute or something like that?
We have Prof. Ismail from Uganda. Prof. Ismail, you want to add?
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Prof.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings from Islamic University in Uganda.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you so much, Rector, for your wonderful lecture. I had a wonderful time when I visited IIUM and met with you. And you are really an inspiration to all of us. Your ideas about rethinking our role as universities, I totally agree with you. I lived in the United States for 28 years. And I agree with you that this ranking business is based on some other kind of worldview, which is not an Islamic worldview. So I really want to thank you, and I think we in Uganda and IIU, where I am, we are also trying to go into that kind of mindset. Our rector, Dr. Ahmad Sengendo, always asks that if we are having a nursing school, how can we afford to have children living near our university dying out of communicable diseases? So we must engage with the community. We must find out the problems in the community, and we must be part of solving those problems. And that could be our impact criteria for judging whether we are successful or not. So thank you so much for your ideas.
My pleasure. We are brother universities. I think we need to work together. IIUM and IIU. Yeah.
Yes.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Prof. Ibrahim. I saw Habib from Indonesia raising your hand just now. But just before you take the floor, you know, our Indonesian colleagues are actually famous for acronyms. Yeah, all kinds of acronyms you can find in Indonesia. But I think our rector has challenged our Indonesian colleagues to acronyms. We even have a COVID acronym now. So please, Pak Habib, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
A great pleasure to see you again, and thank you. You have given me 4 or 5 big books since when you were in years old. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And in the end of your presentation, you mentioned the beautiful things about the humanizing education and the sustainability. It's a matter of the human university. Our future is open. We have up the future orientation of the university with sustainability, but also with peace and the what do you call happiness, because happiness is one of the our goals also in the sustainable development. But we have also to remember about this. What's the relationship with our Maqasidus Sharia in this human university, in how to implement, and especially if we go to the climate change and the issue of the sustainability. So thank you, Professor.
Yeah. I think Maqasid is more complete than the 17 Sustainable Development Goal, because I think I didn't show you the chart. The 17 Sustainable Development could be condensed in any one of the 5 Maqasid. For example, when you talk about climate change, the question that you ask so to me, it is more about saving life. You know, unless you work on climate change, our life will all be vulnerable. Our survival will be threatened. So when we take it from the point of view that this is a Maqasid sort of mission, then I think we have different incentive, different aspiration to work, not because of economic. I think most of the climate change are craft on economic thing. And it is not about the human. The human part is a second thing. When we look at COVID, for example, America probably is a good example. They open up too soon. Why? Because they want to save the economic sense rather than the human sense. So I think this issue becomes a very important issue. So when we look at Maqasid as the final ultimate goal, then your decision making becomes very much clearer of where you want to do in terms of the action on education. So we are translating there. I wish I have more time. How do you actually craft out the 17 goals into the 6 Maqasid? Yeah, and that I think is very clear as far as assessment is concerned. So when research, we're beginning to ask now, when you do your research, which of the 5 Maqasid are you thinking of? Right? So a medical doctor may say, I want to save life. That's good, right? But economists, people like Aslam may say, I want to create wealth, which is not wrong. But the question we ask is, how much of the wealth now will save life? So at the end of the day, all the 5 elements of Maqasid must be fulfilled no matter where you start. And that's the thinking I think we want to generate when we want to evaluate where we are in the context of knowledge, in context of research, teaching or learning or whatever, education per se. I think once we got that, then we don't have to worry about ranking anymore, because it is self-ranked, as it were. Inshallah, a long way to go, but yeah, it is working on our minds now.
I think
Thank you
really,
for the question.
This means, there has to be more sessions in the future to talk about the details. You have given a big burden on the Kuala of Economics and Management Sciences to change the meaning of economics. And I think certainly those of us who have been working in Islamic economics area, we do realize that, it's all about human beings. Economics is all about human beings, and wealth is, as you mentioned, needed to be seen as how it uplifts, the well-being of people. With the agreement of Shahran, we will continue for a few more minutes, just to give others, a chance to maybe to make comments. Tan Sri, work for Allah is getting quite a lot of positive response. WFA, you know, and I'm sure it can also be anywhere, anyhow, anytime. But certainly some of the chat comments have said they look at it very, very positively. Ahmad Lubis is asking, what will be your strategy or milestones towards spirituality and sustainability?
I am sorry I can't answer you that. I need to depend on people like Professor Kamal Hassan. The other thing that we are doing is looking at him, how to interpret it. I think his depth of knowledge is larger than mine. So he's now writing something to do with sejahtera. I think the Indonesian will understand this. The word sejahtera meaning peace in a very simplistic way, but has more meaning than that. And I think Professor Kamal, if I can talk on his behalf, has just finished a monograph on sejahtera, the Islamic interpretation. So in that, there's a lot of, he's now talking about Al-Falah, if I'm not mistaken. So I will leave it to the experts to do to that. Once we've got that, then maybe his turn to talk to you, Aslam, have another session. But certainly spirituality is a big thing. For sejahtera, from my point of view, we start as a spiritual being, not a human being. I think this is where we have left out. Yeah, we start with the human being and then try to claw back to the spirituality, which maybe have lost for a long time because the school system has taken it away. So how do we start with a spiritual being and then go back to being human with a soul rather than a human being without a soul, the way we see it today, and the education are training us that way. So it's thanks for the question, but I don't think I would want to attempt it without getting into trouble. So, yeah, but we recognize the issue.
Yeah. Tazri, you know, I think in the Malay-speaking world, we have these two words that we use. We have the word ma'mur and we have the word sejahtera.
Yes.
And when you look at the Dewan Bahasa, when they translate, both of them are translated as prosperity.
Yes.
But there is a big difference, I think, between ma'mur and sejahtera. So this idea of sejahtera having a much more deeper meaning, you know, I hope that maybe in this part of the world we can work together with our colleagues from Indonesia to actually develop this idea even more.
Further,
Brother Suhaimi from economics has talked about the importance of barakah and how it connects to education. Maybe this also requires another session, you know, to discuss, you know, in much more detail. Brother Shahran, anyone else that you want to, you know, unmute to ask something?
I see two hands here. One is Brother Ahmad Lubis and one is Brother Omar. I don't know whether you...
Okay, Ahmad Lubis, we did ask the question just now about spirituality and sustainability. Brother Wan, yes, okay. If there is nobody else, Wan, are you there? Our postgraduate student.
You need to unmute yourself, Wan. We can't hear you.
Oh, we have Dr. Kalim Alam.
Okay, so we maybe go to Kalim. Brother Kalim Alam is our alumni from, I think, the early 90s, now in Saudi Arabia.
I think you need to be fair to Brother Wan. He has already nothing to speak, but his mic is not unmuted, sorry.
We take Kalim Alam first. He's been there for a long time.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, please. Brother Kalim.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
It was very good presentation, and I love the development in my former university. Now I'm in King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia.
Inshallah.
While I was attending the 42nd annual general meeting of the Islamic Development Bank, there was a session about future of the education, where they were expert from US who was telling us that the future will not see the campuses we see today. The large campuses will disappear. Now the COVID-19 has shown that it is very conveniently people have shifted to home learning and through the Zoom and other technologies, staying at home, which is, I mean, now almost everywhere it has. So it felt, I mean, he was talking about 2040s, but it looks like the 2040 has been brought to 2020.
Yeah.
Now, how do you see the future of the campus and the buildings which we have built? How do you see them from a future perspective? Thank you.
Yeah. It's fair comments, I think. Yeah, but I want to differentiate between delivery and content. When we talk about Zoom, to me, it's more delivery than content. It could be information rather than knowledge, because some of the knowledge that we talk in the Islamic sense of the word cannot be delivered through Zoom. You still need to have the face-to-face thing. I think it's a big mistake if we say Zoom is the only way. We will lose a lot of our tradition in trying to convey meaning, deeper meaning. When our relationship with our guru, I think that's something which we cannot forsake by using Zoom or Mr. Google for that matter. So I think we need to defend some of the tradition of the Islamic way. I mean, if you look at Oxford, why are they still maintaining the tutorial system? When most of the Islamic countries has moved away from the tutorial system, because the tutorial system is a very effective way of teaching people and also creating behavioral change. So we need to decide for ourselves. I don't care whether it comes from the US or the UK. We need to decide for ourselves, given our tradition and what it says that has benefited for a long time. I think that's the worry I have for the Islamic world. We are very easily induced or seduced sometimes into what the Western has done, as though that we don't have anything of value for ourselves. I think we need to go back and understand that the whole university structure is a Muslim idea. Yeah, long before the so-called world-class university, University of Karayin was there in 958, built by a Muslim women. And now you dare to tell me that we are depriving our women of education. You know, the whole idea was built by Muslim women, taken into this modern university, and it's done by Islam. So we need to have some sense of pride of what we have got and maintain it. The only problem is that our sense of history is so weak that sometimes we forsake it because we thought others are better than us. I like to differ. We are now, Aslam, I want to talk to you about this. Maybe I can talk to you more. We are now talking about how to decolonize the university again, with with this Black Lives Matters and all these statues in Oxford are falling down. What are we doing in terms of decolonizing the idea of the university? The white man may not be there, but the ideas are still running in our head as though they're still alive for centuries and centuries ago. So that is another big agenda that we hope to do before the end of next year.
Inshallah. This, I think, would be something definitely in IIUM and in our other universities where colleagues share our ideas. In Islamic scholarship, we talk about this al-ghazwatul fikr, the colonization of thought by the winners over the losers. Yeah? Yeah. We always take the ways of the victors. Yeah. Okay, we are going to go to one, and I think this is wonderful because this may be the last question, and one is going to be the future of our education system, because he is probably one of the youngest in the group today. So one, please make your query as concise as you can.
You can't hear.
We have one. You need to unmute, or Brother Shahra needs to unmute.
Yes, we do.
Okay, you're on. No, we lost you again.
We can't hear you, one, although there is no mute sign there, but...
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay, Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, thank you.
My name is Wan Omar. You can call me Omar. I'm a PG student as a master's graduate in IIUM, currently in economics. So Prof Aslam is one of my lecturer in this kuliah. And my question is, I have been here in IIUM for almost around 8 years because I continue my bachelor degree here. Okay. And then I went for corporate job, almost 1 year and a half, something like that. So I work in the bank and also a think tank. And then lots of things happening in the world outside, like I see how corporate works and also how our national politics work and same thing. My friends, some of them joined the politics. I think you know some of them. But I didn't join then, so I went back to IIUM, and I want to continue for my education here, because I feel like it is confusing. I need an answer that I can convey to them at the world outside, something like that. And when I came here, then you are here, and then you try to reconnect the Islamization and everything with the outside world, or the issues, everything of the outside world. So previously, when I was here in IIUM, we have to learn also the Islamic knowledge. I think if you go through our educational system, you can see that we going through the Islamic part of the world, like you learn fiqh, Islamic philosophies, and then we learn about lots of other Islamic subjects. And then we move to modern knowledge. Like in my case, we will learn about modern economics. So we will learn about mathematics, statistics, econometrics, macro and micro analysis, trade, international trade, monetary policy, financial, and everything.
Please, question, yes.
And so I already know I need to garner a lot of energies to learn all of this. And then you also want us to reconnect with the world outside, right? Because all of the theories are not very useful. We are not connected with the outside world. And this needs a lot of energies from us as students to also learn and then do research and everything. So my question is, in order for you mentioned in one of your slides that you say that we must have the space in order to provide for the next sustainability of this mission and also this university. I think also you need to provide in some of the funds that we as students can get, as a PG students, so that we can learn easily and we can, just thinking about to learn more and more and become our next experts for this university. Because right now I'm working and also I'm studying, so I need to separate my kind of energies. So my second question also, I would like to ask you what kind of incentive that you want to give perhaps to the lecturers, or maybe for us as PG students, in order to do all this. Because if you see at the outside world, UM unit example, or UCAM example, they don't really not focus on this. They just let what the student they want to do, and then that's it. But since you want to urge us to also be in this, so I hope what kind of incentive, motivation that you can motivate something like that, Tan Sri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omar. Yes, Tan Sri.
It's a very relevant question, but there are two parts to it. I think the incentive, perhaps it comes to your own niyat. That I think is incentive. When I talk about the higher purpose, that will be your incentive. What is a higher purpose that will motivate you and inspire you? And for Muslim, I think the incentive is to go to Jannah. Once you get that, then that is the incentive that all that you need. You don't need other incentive. So the difficulty is that when we go into education, we are given this material incentive first. And that's why I say the spiritual being must come first. Once you have that incentive, the rest becomes secondary. I'm not saying that we don't have to have good house, good car, good. This is okay, but that's not the ultimate goal. At the end of the day, where do you want to end? And this is where, when these two things connect, when the heart and the minds connect, then you have this higher purpose that is burning into you. Why do I come here and talk to you at 9:30 in the morning, in the night, when I could have been sleeping in my bed, and enjoying myself? That's because I'm hoping that this knowledge that you will spread over, that I'll get some barakah in it, and it may take me closer to Jannah somehow or other. And if you have that in mind, then I think we are all settled. And this is where I think the Muslims need to differentiate itself from the non-Muslim, as it were. And the second tier is, of course, we are not saying that we can survive on thin air and plain water alone. But what the university is doing, the university now has started to experiment with our kuliah of education, what we call the fee waiver scheme. And it means exactly that. The best of the student, we say, okay, we give you a fee waiver, you just study. You don't have to think about money anymore, right? Now, if they are good, then we'll give you a fee waiver for masters. We already got 5 students like that now, which are on the master's and the PhD level. The moment you finish your PhD, we will sign a contract with you that you work with this university. This is how Oxford, Cambridge built themselves. They take the best from other countries and plant it into their university. They use somebody else's brain. They don't use their brain. But the Muslim countries are not doing this. And we hope this is the university that will change it, because we get the best and the brightest here with the right spirit and the right incentive spiritually, as it were. Yeah. So there's another, since you are here, you can come to my room and we can talk about this. You know, I'm quite prepared to talk about it. Now, the experiment in the Kuala of Engineering will be spread to other Kuala, including economics. And we are also looking for the best lecturers that can work here on that kind of an incentive. So it's a long-term thing. The COVID is not helping us, but alhamdulillah, I think there are already funders who says now, have you just got an offer, 50 scholarship for the best and the brightest who will be given this waiver scheme. We are looking for them now. So if the niyat is right, and I think if the purpose is right, I think the barakah will come. I cannot overemphasize this. The success that we are going to get is because of the barakah. It's not because of some ministry somewhere tells you what to do. If you hold that firm, inshallah, we'll be there in the shortest possible time. Yeah. So since it's the last question, Aslam, I would like to apologize if I overstep my, my bounds. When I talk about this, I'm always emotional. So forgive me if I overstep my bound. But certainly, I applaud your attendance today. I see Farid is also very quiet. Normally, he will ask a lot of questions. Luckily, he didn't. But yeah, we are now forging relationship. I'm open to you. My email is accessible. If you want to connect with us, alhamdulillah, please do so. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I bid you farewell. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Tan Sri. I think really it's been more than an hour, but time has really moved so fast. So many questions, so many comments still coming in. Talking about various aspects of what we were discussing. I think really maybe Brother Shahran will take note of some of these comments, and certainly it could be something that we think about for our next round of talks. I'm not sure at this point in time, Prof. Fauzan, would you like to maybe say something to the audience about our series? I think we're going to take a break, for Eid and other things. Is Prof. Fauzan still with us, or maybe he has left? So if he is not with us, then maybe I will take the opportunity just to thank everybody. We will be taking a short break for Eid, and we will maybe continue with our series, most likely in September. We will try to see how we can make these sessions really meaningful, including maybe even the time. We may modify the time if needed. But all the sessions that we've been having have been wonderful. We still have 200 plus people with us for the last 1.5 hours.
Alhamdulillah.
That I think has to do with the topic, and also with Tan Sri himself giving these words of inspiration to all of us. With that, thank you everyone for being with us in this session. We look forward to you being with us in our following session. Thank you to our colleagues from the 20 countries, Malaysia, Nigeria, Indonesia, Singapore, Iraq, Russia, Zambia, Algeria, Mauritius, Thailand, Pakistan, South Africa, Uganda, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, India, Germany, Tanzania. We have one from USM, Penang, Prof. PG student from USM, Penang, Bosnia, Brunei, and also the US. We hope to see you, inshallah, in our next session. Thank you again, again, everyone. And we end with the recitation of Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-As.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi